Alright, y'all, so today I want to do a very quick review of Destiny 2's first mission that focuses on the character Shah Han. This was basically done after the disastrous, in my opinion, sunsetting of the initial Destiny 2 campaign, the Red War, also the two expansions, Warmind and Curse of Osiris, and eventually Forsaken. And this was added to the game as sort of a way to help new players catch up with the story, introduce them to the world, because, I mean, Bungie had just literally cut massive parts of the story out that still to this day, it doesn't do a great job of explaining. And since this is kind of an entirely its own thing and new, I wanted to give you my thoughts on it and talk about the pros objectively and, of course, the many cons. So, to kind of give you what this mission is, they start this basically when you launch Destiny 2 as a new player, including myself. They kind of bombard you with this cutscene. Now, this cutscene is designed to introduce you to the world, give you the basic backstory and lore of the universe. And, I mean, like I said, there's some pretty big pros with this one. I mean, it still gives you more information to what the hell Destiny 1 gave you. And I think in general, this mission, which is in general a sort of, it's a remake of a mission from the first game. The first mission that you play on the Cosmodrome in Destiny 1 when it wakes you up, the ghost wakes you up and stuff. Basically, it's the same mission, but you're doing different things. You're fighting different characters. You meet this brand new Guardian called Shah Han, who infamously, I guess you can call it, his model was actually inspired by a famous Destiny 2 streamer called Aztecross, which I just find that hilarious, just because he is a pretty popular Destiny 2 streamer and YouTuber, and the fact that Bungie would even take the time to model a character after him is pretty hilarious. But he's basically a guardian that you meet. He helps introduce you to the world. The Ghost also gives you some decent backstories to all the enemy factions that you're going to be fighting, including the Fallen, the Hive, the Vex. And eventually you meet this character called Shah Han. You go around the Cosmodrome in a similar order to how you did in the first game. You know, you're kind of turning on arrays. You're also kind of trying to find this Hive wizard that basically, we get a little bit of backstory. Sean Hive was part of a fire team, and two of his guardians were killed by this Hive wizard. And basically, we have to just sort of team up with him, kill some Hive, and eventually we take on the Hive Wizard and Destroyer, avenging the death of the two Guardians that Shah Han had lost. And, you know, like I said, there's some pretty interesting story beats that happen throughout. You also get your first Sparrow. It's, like I said, it's basically a beginner's guide to Destiny. And, you know, it's basically the general story of it. Now, there is an option in the game as well, which I thought was very nice. You can just kind of skip all this big tutorial if you just want to go straight to the tower. But, you know, like I said, the conclusion of this section of the game is, of course, you go to the tower, you get introduced to, you know, all your Vanguard leaders and all this kind of stuff. So, let's give you my pros and my cons of this. In comparison to Destiny 1, this is kind of night and day with the first mission of the game. They give you a lot more information and context to every enemy faction you're fighting in the game, and also the Traveler and the Darkness. In Destiny 1, no offense, they did not give you anything in that first mission. Barely any dialogue is spoken that gives you information about the characters, the world. You get some loose information that the Traveler started some golden age, but it collapsed, and then the Darkness came. That's it. Nothing more. We don't, like I said, I think we get introduced very briefly to the Hive. The Fallen, I'm going to be frank here, I think they name drop them in that first game, but they don't give you any context or who the hell those guys are. And I really enjoy in this game, like I said, I'm just comparing this to Destiny 1. The writing here is a lot better already. They give you a lot more context and information about all the enemy factions, even though they do name drop the Vex, but they don't even show up in this part of the game, which I think is kind of strange. They could have maybe incorporated a way for the Vex to show up. Just as, like I said, for new players to see what they look like and how they operate. I also like Shahan. I know, like I said, I might get some hate from some Destiny 2 players. I know there's a lot of memes about him, but I didn't hate this dude. Like I said, there's a little bit of a relatable story. He lost, some of his members to a hive wizard. You can kind of see his character similar to maybe like Eris Morn or something, from the first game, where, he lost some people. You're basically teaming up with him. He kind of introduces you to the world, and then you got to fight this hive wizard. It's an okay, decent part of the game. Now, granted, it's not, like I said, part of a giant, conclusive, linear narrative. It's just kind of a whatever beginner's mission, which is a little bit disappointing. I wish it had more to do with the actual universe, but for what it is, and for the kind of a little story they give you in this first mission, it's not horrible. And also, I think the graphical upgrade from the Cosmodrome, even though it's the same locations you fought in Destiny 1, it's pretty cool because, like I said, graphically, Destiny 2 is still a lot better than Destiny 1 in terms of graphics. And I think, like I said, the story, there's some pretty big pros into the story. Now, I'm going to kind of also get into, of course, my mini cons with this mission and in general the new player experience in Destiny 2. Even though this mission is designed to catch players up, there's just so much stuff that was cut out of the game. It is just kind of frankly impossible to catch up. And I think the new player experience in Destiny 2 is pretty horrendous. For one thing, they do kind of give you a timeline of sorts in the game, which gives you a linear way to play the expansions that you have in Destiny 2, which I like. That's a huge pro compared to Destiny 1, which didn't have that. And they give you, like I said, they do give descriptions of the Red War and the other expansions that were sunsetted. The problem is they don't give you, this is, like I said, it's very lazily done. They give you like a paragraph of text, and that's it. They don't even give you a nice cinematic to sort of cover everything, or kind of how they did with Forsaken, just a nice little replay mission. Nothing. And like I said, it will be totally confusing for players who haven't yet attempted to take on Destiny. I luckily had the chance to play the Red War campaign, which I'm kind of debating if I'm going to make a video about it because you can't play it anymore. But like I said, it's just kind of, frankly, really bad and poorly done. This mission, like I said, I think gives you the nice general, sort of background knowledge of the universe. But other than that, like I said, when you get into the actual game itself, there's some pretty big issues. The game's new player experience is pretty bad. There's not a friendly new player guide to guide you through everything. You're just kind of bombarded with information, all this and that. And it's not a great experience for a new player. I mean, I eventually was able to catch on and learn, and eventually I really enjoyed Destiny 2. But it's like I said, I'm trying to see it from the new player experience, someone who's never touched Destiny ever in their lives. They're going to be totally confused, and I can totally see them just leaving the game at that point. Because, like I said, it's too much. It's just too much stuff. And like I said, all the expansions, even though they do give you the brief, like I said, background to the universe, they don't give you any cinematics or anything that would catch up those expansions they sunsetted. They kind of just lazily drop a paragraph in the timeline, and that's it. I'm sorry, that's really lazy. They could have done a lot better than just drop a paragraph of text about the Red War. It would have been nice for new players to actually see cinematics and gameplay from it, to, I don't know, catch people up on the story. But yeah, those are some pretty big and massive issues with this mission and in general the beginner new player experience on Destiny 2. It's just kind of a very strange thing, and I think it's really disappointing. I think in general sunsetting was one of the worst things. Now, like I said, I don't have a problem with sunsetting to a degree, like maybe like weapons to a certain degree, or even maps. But when you're talking about massive parts of the story that are getting cut out, that's ridiculous, especially since people paid money for it. That's just frankly wild. I think it's the worst decision Destiny ever made in its entire lifespan. And it doesn't help, too, especially with the timeline. They lazily drop a bunch of text. But also, especially, like I said, if you're trying to introduce new players to this world, you also still got to tell players about Destiny 1. Because in the timeline, there's no mention of Destiny 1's events. You don't have any background, context, or anything. They don't tell you about the campaign of Destiny 1. They don't tell you about the Taken King or the Rise of Iron. Nothing. Which is kind of crazy to me because those, like I said, this Destiny 2 is a sequel to Destiny 1. So it's kind of crazy that we're also, like I said, for new players, that's not given any kind of experience or background on. Kind of crazy. But yeah, I know this is kind of a random video. I'm just reviewing the beginner mission, if you will, of Destiny 2. But I feel like since it was like a new experience crafted by Bungie, it wasn't in the original Destiny 2. I figured might as well make a very quick video to talk about it. Kind of a really just overall hugely mixed experience. But yeah, my thoughts on the beginner mission of Destiny 2. All right, peace, y'all.